started. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be joining us. My name is Scott Anton, VP of Sales Strategy with Gideon Taylor, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn this month. And I need to remind myself what the title is, From Manual to Modern, Extending PeopleSoft Financials Automation with GT eForms. And we are really excited to have Bupa join us to share some of the stuff that they've done with eForms over the last few years. Our speaker today is Kirsty Dixon, PeopleSoft Support and Development Senior Analyst at Bupa. She's been working with GT eForms for the past 3 years. And for those of you who want to know a little bit more information about Kirsty, her hobbies include snowboarding, growing fruits and vegetables, both of them, and knitting. So, Kirsty, it's great to have you join us this afternoon, and thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. A little bit of housekeeping before I hand this off to you. We are recording the session today. We will be providing a link so that you can watch it and rewatch it at your leisure in the future, and feel free to share it with others. You can always find these recordings on our website as well. So if you want to go back and check out the history of our Lunch and Learn sessions, there are some really interesting topics. A lot of them are deal with GT eForms inside PeopleSoft across financials and HCM and campus solutions. But then we also get into chatbots and AI for PeopleSoft and general PeopleSoft topics. As a matter of fact, we've got one coming up next month that gets into a discussion of managed services and staffing services. So giving folks an idea of what options are available to help complement your PeopleSoft teams. And then this summer, we're also featuring some exciting content on user experience and AI chatbots. So keep an eye open for those as well. Since you're on this webinar, chances are good that you'll get invitations to others, and we encourage you to join us when you can. If you've got questions as we go along, feel free to post those either in the chat or the Q&A. We might take a breather to respond to those as they come in and give Kirsty a break from speaking. Otherwise, we might hold on to those until the end and cover those when she's done. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you, Kirsty, and thank you again for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen now.
Yeah.
Okay, so a quick introduction, as Scott's just introduced me. I'm Kirsty Dixon, PeopleSoft Support and Development Senior Analyst. I have worked at Bupa for about 18 years now. On the call, I'm joined by Christopher Livesey, who is the head of PeopleSoft Financials, who's also worked at Bupa for about 31 years. And we've got Belinda Preston, who has worked at Bupa for 13 years, and I refer to Belle as our tech person, but her actual title is Senior Software Engineer. Okay, so I'll just on to the next slide. So just a quick overview of Bupa. For anyone who might not know, we are one of the leading private healthcare providers in the UK. We've got hundreds of locations across the UK, and we also operate globally in countries such as Australia, Spain, Hong Kong, UAE. Our UK services that we provide are like private health insurance, health clinics like GP appointments, physio. We've got dental services. We have the care homes and villages like retirement villages. And we also own the Cromwell Hospital in London. So I pulled some statistics so that you can maybe gauge how big of an instance that we're like PeopleSoft instance that we are supporting and managing. So currently, from 2025, I pulled these statistics. So back then we had about just under 16,500 user profiles, active user profiles. On a monthly basis, we're processing about 27,500 vouchers, and that's coming out at about 8,500 payments on a monthly. So you can maybe gauge how big of a PeopleSoft instance you're running against them figures, hopefully. So how is Bupa using the GTE forms? So we went live with GTE forms back in 2023. Since then, we've raised upwards of 51,000 forms. I've done this slide here so you can sort of to break down basically in like per module, like where our forms are lying. So we have 4 payment forms that integrate within our Accounts Payable module. Then, so we've got the UK payment form, which is our most frequently used form. That's coming in about 34,000 forms. That's one of the forms that I'm going to be demoing today. We have a similar payment similar payment form for our Hong Kong business. Then we have a petty cash form, which is about so that allows our care home business to record their petty cash expenditure. And then we have what we call the clinician form. So that's about paying our self-employed clinicians. That's our most recently deployed form into production. So I will also be demoing that as well today. Within the general ledger module, we have 4 forms that allow the business to request the creation and update of chart field codes for like accounts, departments, products, projects. Primarily it's used by the finance and e-procurement teams. A lot of our approvals use department, like we'll route for approval based on department, the cost center manager. So it's imperative that we have the department manager like updated as soon as possible. So that's why we have that for them teams. Then we have 2 forms that fall under like the user security area. We are heavily audited with regards to the access that we give to our users. We give them like a base PeopleSoft profile. If they require additional access, such as e-procurement, finance, or approval access, users are requested to submit this user profile form. It gets approved, signed off, and then we will give the access accordingly. There is a technical form which is similar. That will be filled out by the likes of like Belinda, and that's requesting PeopleSoft administrator role, all the access. And I believe that form is also used to manage audit around migrating system changes into production. And then within the e-procurement world, we've got a form that's allowed, where the e-procurement team can request us to set up like ship to locations. And then the form that we've currently got in development is around allowing requisitioners to give other users access to their requester profiles so that they can manage and receipt purchase orders on their behalf. That currently is controlled using a user profile form, but we've decided that we'll make that like a self-service thing that they can do.
Kirsty, how do you identify these form needs? Are these from departments that come forward and say, hey, we want to automate this? Or do you have, maybe you go around and kind of query folks about what processes are manual that might benefit from automation?
It's a bit of both, really. So with regards to the petty cash form, so prior to GT forms, we already had a product in place for some forms. So when we first went live, we were pretty much like just taking our existing forms and putting them onto the GT form framework. So like the UK payment form and the Hong Kong form was like that, and I think some of the chart fields as well in the user forms. But yeah, like we will be approached by the business and say, right, we've seen what you can do with regards to the new framework. Can you take a look at this process, and do you think it's suitable to put onto a form? Really, like what can you do? And then sometimes it's a case of like this new form that's in development, and that's something that's come from our team ourselves. Like we've identified, like do we really need a user form, like a user access form going out for approval to do like a really quite small update in the system? Do we need all that approval? No, but we do feel like there should be some sort of log somewhere that, like, you know, people are given the access. So the requester form is us saying, we think that this would be a good idea for you. We mock a form up, we go out to the business and then ask them their opinion, and then they will come back and and then in this case, say, yeah, that's good, let's do that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into our start demoing our UK payment form. So we have a general homepage with most of our forms on. So I work on a one form family, one form type ratio. So it allows me to have a nice tile per form. So the payment forms that I will be demoing today use the same premise really. So a user will log in, complete the form, it will get fully approved. Once the form goes to an executed status, a data insert is done and the data is put into the voucher staging tables. The PeopleSoft does voucher build and post process will pick that data up, create the vouchers in the system, and then the forms will the vouchers get paid on the pay cycle. So the purpose of this form is to make ad hoc payments to the likes of like charity payments, compensation payments. These are payments that we don't really want to set up a supplier in the system. So what we do is we allow our users from around the business to submit a request to just do this one-off payment, and then that just will get paid. So within the UK payment form, as we call it, I have essentially 15 payment form templates. So I will just show you what I'm doing around that. So because obviously each template has slightly different requirements. So if we just go with the stale data check form first. So you can see here this segment contains our payee details, and that's a segment that is standard across all the 15 forms. Because I've selected the stale data check form, as I scroll down, you can see that there's a segment here, and this shows only when that form type is selected. And that segment's being controlled via the visual ifs within the form setup. Moving down. So you can see we're asking the user to complete the form, like the amount, any payment messages and descriptions. So you will see as I show a couple of more of the 15 forms that the text does change. It's dynamic because that's all being controlled by the visual ifs on the form setup. I just have like lots of like text boxes and just put some instruction on, and that's how they're all showing. Because obviously when we're building forms, we want them to be like very simple for our users. We don't want to like be showing information that's not needed. So hidden really with this visual ifs for this form particularly, they don't need to know or change where that voucher will end up getting coded to. So that's just not details that they can even see, like and fields that they can see.
Kirsty, in that section that is the stale date check details, is any of that information that could be pulled in from the system? Like if you entered the check number, could it automatically populate with the additional details, or?
So usually with stale data checks, we're talking about checks that are maybe like 2-3 years old. So we might have archived that data. So that's why we
Okay.
ask the user, so that's why we ask the user to actually input that data into the system.
Great, thanks.
So with this form type, the payment message is mandatory, but we're making use of the validation functionality on the form setup, which allows us not only to just make it a mandatory field, but it allows you to have that message as well. So again, you'll see that the pay details is quite standard, but now as I'm scrolling down, you'll see that that stale dated segment is gone. And now you can see some additional fields. So now we're asking the user to complete like the GL business unit. The account information is initializing from the data pool. And I'll touch on how we are doing that after I've gone through like actually submitting a form. Like the payment message is like shown in red because that's like the validation. That's what's triggering that to show as red, and that needs inputting. And again, you can see that like the data is changing to help the user fill these forms correctly. Again, another validation message coming up. This was just highlighting that you can see now the GL business unit is populated for this form type, and they've also got 2 additional like accounting entries boxes that they can complete if needed. Okay, so I'm just going to go and complete a compensation form. So we do have validations on some of the fields that Belinda has done as part of like code. That's my understanding, sorry. So I'll just show you this in a second. Okay, so when we're paying UK bank accounts, the sort code is 6 digits, account number is 8 digits. We need to ensure that our users are entering that information correctly. So what we did, well, the first thing that will most likely trigger actually is going to be a combo edit. It does it in a certain order. So on this form, to make sure that we're actually entering the valid combinations, we put on a combination check form, so you can see. So what it's going to do, it's going to go away, check them account entries, make sure they're valid at this time, and if not, it's going to prompt the user to change that information. We actually have that combination check on the submit, so me doing this now, but also on the approval buttons as well. That's so that we can really ensure that the data that's getting inserted into the staging tables is as accurate as possible, so that when the voucher is essentially built at the end, it's not going to go into recycle, and then that problem is becoming a different that problem is now for someone else to look at. We're just making sure that the data is accurate when it's getting input. So if I try and submit now. So we've got this validation on the sort code field that's like really pushing to make sure that it's like, of the correct length. And then we also have a validation that's ensuring that them 2 fields are numbers only. So for this form type, it's driven by the cost center, so it'll go to the cost center manager for approval. Now, the approval paths that I use for this form, we actually are using a mixture of dynamic approval paths and static. So depending on the form, it will look at the cost center manager and it'll look at the value of the form and it'll insert approval steps accordingly to make sure that the approvals are sufficiently covered. Some of the form types are just driven based off role. So we are using the two options there. So I'm just gonna log out and sign in as Chris. And we are actually, we've configured our approvals within the fluid approval framework as well, and then within the delegation framework. So as an approver, there's nothing really different from what they're seeing. They're seeing essentially what the user has submitted. There is another form where it changes slightly, where like on our user profile form that I just mentioned earlier, it'll go off to a team for approval, and they usually will sense check their if someone has requested like approval access, it will check their job grade, and so that information, it will only show it like if it's the certain team for approval, and they'll check the amount and they'll be able to validate, but that's only for that team. So we do change sometimes the information that an approval will see, but for this form, it's just what's submitted. So our final approval path is our central accounts payable team. Okay, so now that it's moved to an executed status and a data insert has been done into the voucher staging tables. So I have a query pre-built to show that. So what you'll be seeing here now is this information. So this is showing that that form that we've just submitted is has inserted into the voucher staging tables. If I run a voucher build now, it's going to take that data and then create the voucher. What you might see here is that, you know, we've got information such as business unit, the type of voucher, the vendor that it's against, and the like payment handling code. So that information is actually coming from a segment on the form that I've completely hidden. Our users do not need to know that information. They're not bothered about which supplier is getting raised against. They're only bothered if whether the user gets paid or not. So this information isn't really isn't for the end user to see. It's only for like accounts payable when we're creating the vouchers. So I have a segment within the form that's completely hidden that's pulling in that information. So I'm going to show now. In order to allow, like, so going back to like the account entries that are being pulled through, what depending on like which form type is selected, we are controlling that through like the data pool, and it like them fields are initializing based on like a data pool record. So which is linked to a custom page that we actually developed in PeopleSoft. So if I just navigate to that page. So what you'll see here is the custom page that we developed. So what it allows me to do is to say, right, out of the 15 forms, like these are the form code on that field, and it allows me to enter the text that which I would like to pull through when that voucher gets created. So you can see here, like the voucher, the supplier information. If I scroll down, like the payment handling code for this specific form type, and then the accounting entries. Now, when you are using the data pool, as you might know, you need to make sure that you're bringing it back only like one row of data to allow to be like initialized from. So when we created the even though the page looks like this, I don't know what magic bell worked, but it looks like this when it BF. So this is how the view works. So as you can see, like what they'll do is with the data pool, it's selecting which form from the 15 that I have configured. So for example, the compensation form, and then on the form setup, I'm saying, okay, look at this view and pull through on the supplier the supplier set ID field, whatever result comes back here, and then the supplier record, and that's where that data is coming from, and that's allowing us to have it like be dynamic, the accounting entries and all this information. So I was asked like okay, like what was like maybe like the rationale of like building the form this way. So as I mentioned, like we had a previous product prior to GT Farms, and I have to consider like like bringing in this new product, like the change of for the business. Like I don't know about yourselves, but sometimes our users have a bit of a knee-jerk panic reaction when something looks a bit different. So I try to develop the form quite similar to what in the look to what we had previously, which is why I have like the 15 sort of drop-down options within the one form type. Also, I didn't really want to be maintaining I didn't want to build, maintain, and do like different approval definitions for 15 different farm types. Having the 15 farm types on the one farm allows me to have the one approval process definition. That means that when we've configured it within the fluid approval framework, it just shows on the approvals as like one type, like UK payment forms. And then when we configure that within the delegation framework, it's just one transaction type. Also, this form probably has about, I think it's like 4 or 5 segments. And obviously when I built this was back in like late ended like 2022, like 23. So my knowledge is like developed since then. So what was my rationale then might have been like different if I was doing it now. So on our farm setup, with like the query records, so I have 6 query records there. If I was to build 15 different farms, I'd probably have like many more query like the records being built from a bit like building queries. I like to get data for the business. If someone's coming to us and say, all right, can I have all the data for your farms? I don't want to be pulling in all them different tables. I like having all my data in one place. I can, if someone wanted to know just a specific farm type, I can just build a query and filter on the farm code. So I like all my data in one place. That's my rationale, really. As you've seen, a lot of the farm is using just like shared segments. So I didn't want to be building that over and over. And also when we're in the farm, I think it's slightly faster to change using the drop down than if I was to have like 15 farms down the side and users were going in and clicking each farm and clicking clicking through. So that's really like why I built the farm that way. Is there any questions at this point?
None in the chat so far, Kirsty.
Okay.
Kirsty,
how much of this?
Job explaining everything.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I do have a question. So you're predominantly functional, Kirsty. How much of this work are you able to do without tech support, without technical analysts or developers?
I can pretty much do everything until it gets to a point of we need the data insert. I need views creating. As we saw that custom page that like the billing built for me, so I can do actually quite a lot. And now that this farm is like set up, when the business comes to us and say we need a new farm building, it's actually like we don't need tech involvement now because that tech work has already been done. I can just piggyback off that and just put a new farm in quite easily. I'll just like put a new option in the drop down. I'll just complete that default value page that we've got going, and then so actually implementing a new farm is quite easy as long as it's under obviously the UK payment farm family. Obviously I need help technically to do things like as you saw, the combo edits on the submit on the approvals and also the checks being done on the sort code and account number fields. But usually it's like, I mean, I think I do quite a lot. Obviously Belle helps a lot as well, but it's usually me going, Belle, I can't get this to work, please help me.
That's great. What's been the feedback from the users?
So we sort of work on a premise of no noise is good news. And to be quite honest, like when we went live with the GTE farms, we didn't have much noise. So the transition over was quite seamless in my opinion. And again, I take that as good news. And you know, I don't want to put something in that's like difficult and people are constantly questioning. Like obviously the way that you fill it out, it's quite explanatory. So, but again, this was a farm that was pretty much already being used. We're just obviously moving it to a different framework. The next farm that I'm going to demonstrate is a process that we took from scratch. You know, we went from like a really manual process and we've put it on. So, you know, the feedback from that has been a bit better. Well, a bit better, but is, you know, it's more positive.
Cool. I'll let you get onto that one.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, the clinics farm, yeah, that's it. So just to outline really like what the old process was. So the farm that we built is to replace the process where we were paying self-employed clinicians around the business. The process is time sensitive due to like contractual agreements. So I've just done a bit of like a diagram of like what the old process was, and like basically like some like issues, maybe like areas that we knew that we could improve on, or like risks. So the old process was like the site would collate timesheets and complete a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet was emailed over to the central accounts payable department, and then copying in cost center managers for approval. Then approvals will come back on email, and once accounts payable got all the relevant approvals, they would then collate all them spreadsheets onto a bigger spreadsheet and then load that manually into PeopleSoft. And then the vouchers were created, and then the payments were made on like ad hoc payment cycles. So some of the like areas that we, identified as being like areas of improvement or like issues is like there was like no online approvals for audit. Them emails were getting filed away, not visible to anyone except for that team. The accounts payable team were actually running reports out of PeopleSoft and checking the approval level against for the person who's like come back on email and check that their approval level covers the payments within the file. If the person hadn't replied to the email, poor AP was having to chase them for for approval. They were loading into PeopleSoft via like a component interface. The issue with that was that because they're getting spreadsheets from various different sources around the business, you'd often like encounter like formatting issues. The combination checks of the accounting entries, that's only getting performed at the point of trying to get that data into PeopleSoft, like with the accounts payable team. If any flagged as errors, they were having to remove that from the spreadsheet and go away and investigate that on the side whilst trying to get all these other payments in. Sometimes like the business would submit the data like where they're actually valid accounting combinations, but the cost center might be wrong. So what was happening was we're finding that like then the finance department were having to like retrospectively go and correct these accounting entries, so all around month end. So you can imagine that was probably like not the best time for them to be doing that. And then we'd also find that the administrators at these sites were then chasing accounts payable for like updates on, has this payment been made? So you can see that this is actually like a really very manual, probably very tedious process for everyone involved. So we took a look at this and we was like, we can definitely make improvements here. And I think like what we've done is actually very like simplified it a whole lot. So just jump back onto PeopleSoft. So on the previous one that I've shown you, the way that the relationship works is like, you had one form and it's creating one voucher, one payment. This form works on like one form, multiple vouchers, and then they're getting paid. So okay, so the first prompt, so the first action the user needs to select is whether they want to start a new form or copy from the existing form. Now I'll demonstrate the copy from once I've submitted the first one. when I was testing and building this farm, I was just getting really fed up of inputting the same data over and over again. I was like, if I'm getting fed up with this, then I imagine our end users will also get fed up with this. So that's where that functionality came from. So, but for now, we'll start this new farm. Okay, so first thing is the user is asked to enter the department code. So again, this form will route based on cost center manager, and then just a simple form description. I have to sanitize some data, so I'm copying and pasting from a screen over here. So we're asked to enter the supplier IDs. So this supplier, this prompt is locked down to specific set IDs within PeopleSoft, so purely suppliers set up for these clinic salary payments. So as you can see, I've input the department here, and it's actually filling out the department within the grid. So as you'll see that as I enter a value into the line, my delete button is being taken away. The reason for that is there's a hidden field in this segment which is actually calculating like the highest value in the grid. Because when the form's submitted, it will look at the highest value on the form, and then it will work out the approval chain based on like the cost center manager. If we've submitted something for like £15,000, it'll look like, okay, have they got a sufficient approval level? No, and then it'll work. It'll add the approval steps into the path. So for this form type, attachments is mandatory. You know, the accounts payable team need to be able to review this form and check against like what's been submitted. Needs something to do confirm the values against. So for this form type, it is mandatory. So you can see that this form is like very, very simple now to create and submit. So if I submit this now, that was a good test. I didn't mean to do that, but yeah, there we go. We've got the combo edit check as well on this form to make sure that the accounting entries are valid. So now that's gone off to the cost center manager for approval. We look at the view approval route. So this will be going off for amount approval, as it would do, as I explained, like with the as replacing the emails. If it needed higher approval, they would be inserted as a step here. Then it goes to finance. So instead of finance correcting errors retrospectively, what we've done is we've brought them into the approval path so that they can review the data up front and deny the form if needed. It gives them the chance to make sure that data is correct up initially. And then our accounts payable department have final sign off for approval. So they'll be checking that the data entered on the form matches the attachment. And you'll also notice that I didn't need to put any bank detail information in. That's because the suppliers are already set up in PeopleSoft, so the information that's actually getting input into the voucher staging tables is quite minimal. It's just, the supplier, I think maybe the voucher set ID, the values, and the account entries. So if I copy this form there. So what I'm going to do now is show the copy from functionality. So when I create this form, this is the bit that I was like really proud of. So if you, in this text here, we've actually got a link to a query. So as you can imagine, like users might just go straight into the form without even thinking like, oh, I need to get a form ID to copy from. So what we've done is we've actually put this link here. So whilst they're in the form, they can click this link, it opens up a query, and they can say, right, okay, my department is that. So from the beginning of this month. So this query is going to look at previous forms submitted on this cost center and bring back the form IDs. So they can review this information like, okay, I'm paying the same 3 people this month. So I'm just going to copy the form ID, copy from, enter the form ID here. And the grid is going to auto populate with the suppliers that I want to pay this month. We're prompting the user to generate the department again and forcing them to put in the amount. Like they might be getting paid the same amount every month, but we just need our users to be sort of checking and validating that that's the case. They can add new supplier if needed. And then submit. So if you view the approval route now, because I put a value in at £15,000, you'll see that the approval path has now inserted that additional step, and that's because we're using the dynamic approval within the approval process definition. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some benefits that we have seen using like the GT Farm framework. Before I jump onto that, is there any questions around the farm that I've just demoed?
Can't see anything in the chat, Kirsty.
Okay. Okay, so some of the benefits that we have seen, the responsibility shift from technical to functional. Scott, as you asked before, like what can we do from a functional, like how much is technical like getting involved? We can do quite a lot. And I feel like I'm always pushing that boundary, trying to do a little bit more. So yeah, there's been a definite shift, and also because we try to we think about future proofing, like okay, if we need to bring another farm in, like how can we do that? Can we do it quite easily? Like how can we save having to get the technical people involved? By standardizing and being able to put like data validation on the when completing forms, we've seen like a reduction in the rework being done. we're able to, like, as you've seen, replace like old spreadsheet and email reliant processes, you know, because we're automating, we're streamlining. We're actually able to like enforce business processes. One of the other forms that we have, the petty cash form, has like a strict procedure. It goes out for review. First, they can then go to the bank to withdraw money, and then it gets approved. Now, because we've got like audit stamps on approvals, if the business wanted to, they can actually go and see, like, right, what, like, is it getting done in that, like, in that sort of order? You know, if they wanted to really delve into that, like, so online approvals is just amazing for audit. Oh, and there go, leading into my next one. Yeah, from an audit perspective, better visibility around approvals, so it's all online, it's not just saved away in folders. Just reducing the amount of work being done by like central teams. Obviously, as you've seen, like when I approved that clinician form, then it's just working the same way as the first form I demonstrated. That data is getting put into the voucher staging tables, and an automated, a scheduled process just picks that up, builds it. There's no need for them collating all this data, having to put them on spreadsheets and just do manual LIN loads. And also we're able to like mitigate risk around like amount approvals. Like, as I mentioned, you know, that team was running a report and manually checking to make sure that the PeopleSoft or the role level that's in PeopleSoft matches the spreadsheet, and like making sure that the approval covers it sufficiently. That's open to human error, and at the end of the day, like, it's probably we're going to make errors. So, you know, relying on the system to actually route that correctly is a great benefit as well. So yeah, so that's my demo.
That was great, Kirsty. I love the fact that I hope that everybody on the call today is able to extrapolate from, yes, these are finance processes that you're automating, but so many of the features that you're talking about inside GT eForms can apply to any business process. So whether it's HR or student administration, you've shown a lot of cool things in terms of what you're doing with eForms that quite honestly can apply to all kinds of different things. One of the things that I wanted to comment on was your use of hidden fields to allow for forms to execute logic without having to show that to the user. You've got these fields that exist in the background that trigger certain actions. That's great.
Yes. Yeah, I work on a basis of if the user do not need to see it, they're not seeing it. I like it clean and simple for our users. I don't want them to be getting confused. So yeah, like hidden fields, hidden segments, just pulling in data and initializing data that is needed, but they don't need to see it.
Have you done anything with regards to analytics or using PeopleSoft Insights with your forms and form data?
No, we've not touched on that yet. Is that within like the newer versions of GT forms?
No, it's actually leveraging PeopleSoft Insights. So being able to do visualizations and analytics in terms of purely eForms, like determining form status and forms in error and different things that might be related to form actions themselves and the forms themselves, but then also obviously form data that might be in process. If there are ways that you can leverage delivered PeopleSoft reporting and analytics capabilities to analyze that data, if there's value, obviously.
We do have a dashboard around approvals, which obviously brings in the GT forms, shows what type of approvals we've got in the system and kind of volumes and stuff like that. So we are using it a little bit.
That's good.
There's always more to do. And new technology. We've already got a pipeline of new functionality that we're looking to keep Kirsty busy building more forms, you know, as we look at different areas of the business. So it's definitely you know, something that, you know, there's just going to be more more and more processes out there that we feel we can use our expertise and build a form to improve both the process, the controls, and the audit.
That's exciting. That's fantastic. Kirsty, anything else that you would like to add? I don't see any other questions in the queue.
Oh, well, I feel like that's a good thing. Maybe I have explained things, quite well, so that's probably why there's no questions. So, well, hopefully you've enjoyed viewing like what we've been able to do with our GT form framework. Should you think of any questions, happy for people to just ask me, like reach out through the Gideon Taylor. So yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you, Kirsty. We appreciate it.
No worries.
I've got a couple of closing announcements for folks. Our Lunch and Learn next month is focused on PeopleSoft in general and the different options that are available to folks to explore managed services and strategic staffing to help complement your team and maybe put together a more predictable support model, predictable spend on an annual basis. There's some really cool services that we're offering to clients. And I know that Scott Crutchfield, who's the practice lead in that area, is going to be sharing some success stories and different models that organizations have gotten creative about in terms of how to leverage that kind of strategic staffing. And then this is brand new. I don't know if there are folks out in the audience that are using our Web UX tools for user experience, but we are introducing now a whole suite of Web UX training offerings to help organizations build their own Web UX solutions that can help to simplify and streamline the user experience in PeopleSoft and beyond. There are some really cool tools here. The orange classes are focused on functional tools or functional aspects of certain tools, and then the blue are technical. And there are some really, we actually have a webinar coming up in July. I think it's July. That's going to be focusing on Web UX and how to reimagine the user experience to modernize PeopleSoft. And then we also have our training services. This is something that has become more and more popular over the last couple of years, extending your eForms knowledge and your eForms skills. These are offered on a regular basis, and you can go ahead and sign up for them. You can find more information on our training site, and you can scan that QR code to get there. And then we also have some that are applicable to general PeopleSoft, search records and BI Publisher in particular. And then we've got obviously a whole lot of different advanced eForms courses. Our next intro to GT eForms, if you've got new people joining your team and you want to educate them on the latest and greatest with GT eForms, that intro class is the same one that we offer to every new client who's getting started with eForms. So it's a week-long online class featuring all of the latest and greatest inside GT eForms, but then just a really great basic introduction to get you dangerous with the tool. I think that is it. If there are any final questions, it looked like somebody just posted something in the chat, which is fantastic. I don't think there are any questions though. Yeah. So one final note, a huge thank you, Kirsty, to you and to Chris and to Belle for your time today. This has been great information. It's always exciting for us to see what clients are doing with GT eForms, and you guys are doing some fantastic stuff. And I'm excited by Chris's comments that there's a whole fleet of things that are coming along behind. It's really good job security for you, Kirsty.
I don't know if I'm excited about that.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck with everything. And everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
everyone.
Bye.
Well done, Kirsty.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.